Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Jeff Onan.
Oh no, Jeff is here. It must mean we're talking about another Sea of Thieves season, aren't we?
That's right. In a new season of the Kongversation.
That's right.
There's yet more seasons of Sea of Thieves. I haven't been on in a while, Hyle, because the Kongversation has not been on in a while. It's just recently come back into our lives. And I had a pitch for you, actually. I was thinking for this season.
Yeah.
And I know this is the 4th episode, so I'm late. But what if we started to pitch up, like, taglines? The Kongversation needs a tagline. It doesn't have one. So every time I'm on, I'll pitch you a new tagline.
Okay.
All right?
All right,
you
well,
can tell me if it's good.
Okay. Well, then let's start this tradition.
All right. Well, so I was thinking for a tagline. All right. The Kongversation, Milk's favorite cookie, but about podcasts for ears.
Okay, we can workshop that. I might need a little fine tuning, but I'm receptive. You know, I'm trying not to be such a micromanaging control freak, so I have to let go a little bit.
So just say yes. It's just not hard. Just say yes. But if it's not good, I'll come back next week for next episode that I'm on. I won't be here every week, but
you're not. But
contrary to what the fans have been asking for, I will not be here every week.
No, the demand is always so high for Jeff. I hear it. People come up to me on the street, big burly men with tears in their eyes, and they say, "Sir, where's Jeff?" And I'm like, he'll be back. Don't worry. But we will get you on episodes this season that aren't about Sea of Thieves. I know you are the specialist when it comes to discussing Sea of Thieves, but you're good for other things too.
I'm sort of a specialist. Yeah, I'll be on episodes that aren't about Sea of Thieves, but that's not this one, is it? Because today, we're going to be talking about Sea of Thieves Season 10.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Season 10 was still going on when the Kongversation Season 11 was winding down. And then we had a couple months downtime. We're back. We've got to discuss Season 10 because Season 11 will be ending soon. And this Wednesday, is it Wednesday, March 20th, or is that,
it's the 20th, yeah.
Yeah, the 6th anniversary of Sea of Thieves. Rare's doing this big, Sea of Thieves Nintendo Direct. Exactly what they're calling it. And they're announcing the whole game plan for this year, 2024. So like seasons.
Yeah.
What is it? Seasons
12,
11,
12, 13,
12,
14.
13, 14. Okay. I can't keep track.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to confuse our audience because you said season 11 is ending soon, and of course you're referring to Sea of Thieves season 11, but not the Kongversation season 11, which has ended.
That has ended. Here's the thing: we
season 12 of the Kongversation is right here in full swing, discussing season 10 of Sea of Thieves.
That's right. It's not
during season 11 of Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, and we do our seasons by year. And Rare does their seasons by whenever they have new content and they can repackage the game. And so they're catching up to us pretty quick. And I'm getting a little nervous because I'm like, I'm going to have to produce 45 to 50 more episodes of the Kongversation in a 3-month time period so they don't eclipse how many seasons the Kongversation's had. I'm feeling the pressure.
If we're lucky, then all the promises they make on March 20th won't come true, and we'll have another 7-month-long season like season 9.
That was pretty sweet. That took the pressure off a little bit. So anyway, we're recording this on March 16th. So the Ides of March were yesterday, but the Eyes of March are going all month long on our Blue Sky account because DK Vine is giving away Banjo-Kazooie eye pins, googly eye pins from Fangamer, long retired Banjo-Kazooie product that I hoarded. All you have to do is follow our Blue Sky account at dkvine.com/Blue Sky or by finding us on the Blue Sky app. Give us a follow and repost the Eyes of March Blue Sky post. I can't say tweet. That's not what Blue Sky is. And you'll be entered to win this raffle. We're giving away 2 of them. And we will draw the winners and announce them at the end of March. So, hey, minimal effort on your part, and you can win a lovely piece of Banjo-Kazooie memorabilia. Rare googly eye pins that you can pin on anything and make it a fun, funny Banjo-Kazooie character. Haha, that thing has eyes. It's great. We love it. DKVine.com/blue sky.
Yeah, and don't forget about our other ongoing contest. If you can guess the amount of jelly beans in my jelly bean jar, then you will be allowed to get 1 jelly bean. The cool thing about this contest is that once somebody wins, then the contest starts over, but it gets a little easier because there's 1 less jelly bean. And over time, eventually, there will be only 1 jelly bean left, and the person who gets that jelly bean gets the addresses of all the other people who have won the contest before, docs-wise.
Yeah.
But just because of the reality of shipping costs in this economy, the only people who are eligible to participate are the people in my zip code. So, don't forget.
Thanks to Joy.
That's, we have we probably maybe have international listeners who are just like, what's DeJoy? What's a zip code? I don't know.
Here's the thing. I feel like our international listeners probably have a better grasp of what's happening in America, the United States, than we do.
Yeah, because I get all my news from the radio in Grand Theft Auto 3.
They play some good tunes. I don't blame you. So
they really do. It's
so Jeff, right now, you're here, so I really want to plug the T-shirt you helped design, you helped envision in our merchandise shop at dkvine.com/merchandise. It's our TeePublic store, and you pitched to me late last year, hey, what if we did like a Jurassic Park parody, but it's for Diddy Kong Racing, and
I did do that because I'm just sort of on another level of creativity, and not your average peon can come up with this stuff. But
no, it's a good shirt.
Did do it.
It's
now,
a good shirt.
The Frasier parody got shot down when you did a Frasier parody, and so we were a little nervous about this shirt, but it did not get shot down. So go ahead and buy it with your human dollars, and while you're there, look at all of the other shirts.
That's right. We have, speaking of Sea of Thieves, we have the DK Vine Sea of Thieves style logo that we used very briefly when Sea of Thieves launched 6 years ago. Designed by Cameron. It's actually a really cool design. So if you want to have a niche thing on your body, but you want to make it extra obscure, go ahead. Buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I've had a niche thing on my body, I have to get it removed, which is difficult because I don't have health insurance. But you guys could add niche things to your body for the low price of some human dollars.
Some human dollars.
And then we benefit from that because otherwise, DK Vine doesn't make any money. We don't really have advertisers lining up.
We don't. We're monetized on YouTube now, thankfully. So that's a step in the right direction. Yeah. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. And Jeff, Sea of Thieves, it's hard to keep up with the Sea of Thieves news because Rare's always like, blah, 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 blah. We changed this. We're doing it this way now. Pay attention to us. And I'm just like, whoa, hold on. I have to talk about Conker's Pocket Tales today. You're not getting my attention today, Rare. Calm down. And thankfully, you and our friend Dre stepped in and said, no, there needs to be someone chronicling the errant updates to Sea of Thieves, and it's going to be us. And that's why we have Golden Sands blog post.
That's right. Golden Sands blog post is a Sea of Thieves blog. And it covers walkthroughs of new gameplay features, just outlines of ongoing events, limited time events, updates to the game, and things you might need to know. I've gotten really, lax with keeping it up to date lately, so
Oh, well.
it's fine. For example, today is when there's Twitch drops.
Yeah.
I have stopped posting about those. So, but I've still continued posting about some things, including headline features for new seasons and various gameplay walkthroughs that you might need. So go on over to medium.com/golden sands. Sorry. Is it golden? I forgot my own URL. It is medium.com/golden-sands-blog post, or you can go to dkvine.com/golden sands blog post. Is that right?
Don't ask me. It's not my site.
It's dkvine.com that's your site. Did you put a shortcut in?
I did. I forgot it though too.
Yeah, so anyone who wants to go to dkvine.com/smush, please do so, and then let us know what it redirects to. And this bit will either be edited out, or Hyle will have had to put something on dkvine.com/smush.
Smoosh. How do you spell that again?
SMUSH. It's sort of like Smash Brothers, but with more
I'll add something.
And actually, Hyle used to be able to edit out my little URL bits, but now that we're recording in front of a live Patreon audience, you can't. These people are feverishly typing dkvine.com/smush.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
check it out.
Yeah. Hello to Jem. Hello to March Rose. Hello to just Andre. We'll be checking in. We'll be checking in on you as we go along. But yes, Jeff. You can always just go to dkvine.com and there's a drop down menu under Friends, and we have Golden Sands blog post right there. So you don't need to memorize anything.
Yeah. If at any point you can't remember the URLs, we also just have Google. Like I don't need to know these URLs. Just Google us.
But to be fair,
Google
barely works anymore because they just sold it out to the highest bidder. So people will just purchase to be at the top of search results, and then the real actual worthy search results aren't until page 7. So it's broken. Google, I would use Ask Jeeves or something, because that would be more reliable.
Late stage people are always complaining about late stage capitalism, because now when it gets to this point, it starts to break down. But somehow it's okay for human beings to get worse with age, like all these old people that can't walk and whatnot, and you're like, oh, we got to take care of them. But then you're mad at capitalism for getting old. Be nice to capitalism. It's your elder.
Jeff with some spicy takes today. This is really going to make the Sea of Thieves discussion interesting. We're going to be at it. We're going to be going at each other's throats. So, Sea of Thieves Season 10, Jeff. Now, when we were talking about, when are we going to do the Season 10 episode for Sea of Thieves in Season 12 of the Kongversation, it was just I couldn't remember what happened in Season 10, because Season 10 was a little bit of an odd duck, wasn't it? In that rather than all dumping at once, as they're wont to do from seasons, 1 through 9, they spread out the juiciest updates for this into 3 parts across the last quarter of the year.
Yeah, that's right. Season 10 of Sea of Thieves launched, I think, on October 19th of 2023. Last year. And yeah, each month, October, November, and December, had a kind of a marquee feature included in their usual monthly updates. Now, they always do a monthly update in Sea of Thieves, refreshing sort of the new items you can buy in the Pirate Emporium shop, maybe doing some bug fixes, because when they come in with a big new feature, it's probably not shipping absolutely perfect. There'll be new bugs that they haven't yet discovered, and so we always get updates. But this season that we're discussing, each month came with a marquee feature, kind of like Season 6, if you remember back in the day, Season 6, when they had some of the marquee features of the season didn't come until later. But yeah, the sort of first main feature of Season 10, which was guilds, which we will get to talking about. It launched along with a ton of little improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like normally when I type up these show notes for seasons, I'm like, okay, what's the main thing of the season? And then I'm like, okay, then what were the events that happened? And then what were the little things? And then it ends up being like, in terms of the cadence of excitement, we end with the least exciting things to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's get the least exciting things to talk about out of the way first. All of the little improvements and little events that went on. And we don't have necessarily a lot to say about them, but
no,
they might be worth pointing out. Obviously there's been a lot of balance fixes and improvements to weapon balance, exploits and hit registration and things of that nature, which are ongoing. The cool thing they did was with rowboats, you can now repair rowboats if they get damaged. You can find multicolored rowboats. So when you find a rowboat out in the Sea of Thieves, it could be one of 6 different colors. You can save a rowboat to your captain's ship to keep it persistent between sessions.
That's really good. That's a really good little added bit of strategy too, because if you get sunk for any reason, whether it's by another player or it's by just the natural elements, if you have treasure on your ship, it's just going to float in the water for a time. And then it becomes a race to come back and get that treasure, because it's just going to be bobbing in the water and you could potentially lose it all if you don't get there in time. So,
right, it'll sink.
Yeah, but if you sink, then you have a rowboat attached to your ship that will then start floating where your ship sank, and you can get all of your treasure into the rowboat and then strategize from there. And there's other things you can do with the rowboat, other ways you can incorporate it into your larger strategy for play. But the biggest hindrance to rowboats was that whenever you would previously play and you would have a rowboat docked to your ship, when you would log out or log back in, your rowboat would no longer be there. It would just be, just like any supplies in the game, it would only be for that session. So yeah, now you can just have a rowboat on your ship, and so long as you don't undock it or lose it somehow, it will just be there. So it's been a really advantageous thing to have for if you have a captain ship, because then you don't have to worry about finding a rowboat when you start a session. And it's just this little extra little blanket of security.
Yeah, I found that one of my favorite things is that some of the rowboats that you can find in the game will have harpoons attached. Some of them will have mini cannons attached. And I always keep a cannon rowboat attached to my brigantine. The Ursa Liner is the name of my brigantine.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that on a brigantine, you can have 3 people on the ship. That's three crew members. But the brigantine only has 2 cannons on each side of the ship. So when you have a cannon rowboat attached, that means that at least on one side of your ship, you can have all 3 crew members firing on 3 cannons, which is usually not possible on a brigantine. And so then it changes the way you approach any battle. You're like, okay, well, we want to approach this battle so that our cannon angle against the other ship is on the starboard side, because that's where our cannon rowboat is, where we'll have another cannon to use if we need it. Anyway, just little things. It's fun. I like rowboats.
Yeah, I'm terrible at actually steering the rowboats, but I do like them.
Yeah. And other things they added in Season 10, little things. The ship where you go down to cook, the cooking station, there's now 2 stoves, so you can cook twice as fast, which is especially nice, I think, on the galleon, because when you have 4 crew members, you're just acquiring fish or meats or foods, maybe more quickly. And then you just have one person to cook and only one stove. It just takes forever when you've saved up like 20 uncooked fish and you want to sell them all, or megalodon meat. So then when you have 2 stoves, it's nice. You just cook twice as fast. Just a nice thing.
It is a nice thing, but I do have one minor complaint about it.
Okay.
So when they added the extra stove, that wasn't there on your, say, galleon before. And I don't know if this is true for the other ships, but I know on the galleon, what used to be there was a place you could put ship trinkets. So they, obviously, with the new update that added this, it was just there once the update went live. But if you had a ship trinket saved to that spot where the stove went, it's still registering as being there. You just can't pick it up. So luckily, I had like pots and pans there because it was a stove, and you're able to like have 5 of those at any time. So it's saying right now that I have pots and pans stored there, or maybe it's the kettle. I forget what I had there, but it says it said 1 of 5, even though I had none on display because it's been overwritten by the stove. So I just put another set or another. It might have been the kettle, but I put another one in a new place, near the stove. But now it says I have 2 out of 5 place when I only have 1 out of 5 place. So I can never retrieve that object ever again. And thankfully, it wasn't something I only have 1 of, because then it would just be lost.
It sounds like a bug that they'll probably fix. I didn't even know about that. But
yeah.
Have you ever watched HGTV? Have you ever watched the show Love It or List It?
No, I can't say that I have, Jeff.
One of the things they do when people are looking for their dream home, they're gonna sell their house and buy a new house. The first thing they do is they show them a house with all of the check marks of what they want, and like I want a bigger kitchen, and I want a private office, and I want a big backyard, and I want to be close to the schools, and then the first thing they do is they show them exactly the house they need. And then they get them all excited, and then they say, all right, now the cost of this house is exactly twice your budget. And they bring them back down to earth, and they say, you can't get everything you need at the budget you have. You have to compromise, and this perfect house that you want for the price you're willing to pay doesn't exist. And that is a metaphor for when they expand the stove in Sea of Thieves. Because it's not going to be perfect. You're going to give a little, but you're going to take a little. So,
Jeff, this show just sounds mean. Are you going to love it? This show sounds mean. It's like, let's give people their dream home and get them all worked up about it, and then tell them, tough, you can't have it. You're not worthy of it.
It's not a charity show. It's a show about buying a house. You can't. This is real life, Hyle. You cannot have the perfect house. You have to compromise a little. And maybe this one doesn't have the walk-in closet that you wanted. But maybe that's the thing you're willing to give up because everything else is so good. And you have to. I think it's a good little life lesson to learn what is the most important thing to you. What do you prioritize when you can't have it all? Because unlike our forefathers of the baby boomer generation, we cannot have it all.
No, we can't, because all of these venture capitalist firms are buying up all of the houses. So
capitalism is getting old. Capitalism has put in its time. It's getting creaky. But it still has wisdom to share with us. It has stories to tell. You can't just throw capitalism on the streets. You have to take care of our elders.
I just want Rare to acknowledge that I don't have a kettle placed there.
Yeah, no, it does sound like a bug they'll probably fix, though.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, another thing they did in Season 10 is that you can, the collector's chests, which are the treasure chests that are empty, and you can open them and close them, and you could fill them with little trinkets, little treasures that you find. So then you can easily carry 3 little treasures at a time instead of having to carry 1 at a time, which is the normal way. They've updated those chests so that when you are carrying one and you see the little treasure on the ground, you can hold a button to pick it right up and put it into the chest instead of the sort of manual way before where you had to put the chest down, open the lid, pick up the treasure, put the treasure in the chest, close the lid, pick up the chest, walk away. It's now just sort of been a scoop and droop type option. You just droop and scoop and walk away with the treasures, which is nice little just speed things along.
It's really going to protect our pirates' lower back. You know, like, you don't want to be bending over that much. It's just not good for it. You want to be lifting with your knees, and I think that's what it allows us to do.
Yeah, love it or lift it. I'm gonna love it this time. Other little things, you know, when you get disconnected from a server in Sea of Thieves, you're gonna lose all those supplies in your pockets, which could include that rare fish you just caught.
That's true.
It's I was gonna say an example of a rare fish, but I cannot. I cannot remember the fish. An umber splash tail.
It's not a splash tail. I was gonna say like a shadow stormfish.
Yeah, you've got that shadow stormfish. You've caught a shiny Pokemon in Sea of Thieves, and then all of a sudden your internet cuts out for a minute. You come back and you have no bananas, no planks, no shiny Pokemon in the pocket. Well, nowadays with Season 10, you're going to keep those supplies because of how they have changed that. Pretty nice.
Yeah, and like our crew in particular has suffered from this numerous times. Whether it's from playing on an Xbox One when the game just cannot run on an Xbox One anymore, or just weird internet issues, little blips here or there, and then nothing can ruin your day more than getting forcibly logged out and losing all the cool stuff in your pocket.
Yeah, I do still play on an Xbox One. I don't want our audience to think that's a literal. You can't play on Xbox One. You can,
but it definitely
it is a little buggier.
Yeah,
it doesn't run as well.
Yeah, and
then the last little thing. Oh, sorry. You do have more to say about how the Xbox One is old?
I was just gonna say I speak from experience, Jeff. I speak from experience. I was playing it on Xbox One up until a couple of months ago, and so I'm not belittling you or the experience. I've lived it. I respect my elders.
The Xbox One still has a lot it can teach us and value to our society. And I think that it's like the Billy Joel song, Vienna Waits for You, because, you know, wouldn't it be nice to go when you're old to just a nice European community where you can feel valued, where you can sweep the streets and everyone loves you a little.
They've got the little hot dogs on the toothpicks. Sausages.
They have that in Vienna. It's sausage. Vienna is where the word wiener came from. When you think of a hot dog is called a wiener, it's just because Americans can't say the word Vienna. Same with calling a hot dog a Frank. That's just short for Frankfurt, Germany. All of things about hot dogs are also things about Germany. So read a book. And speaking of how the hot dogs get made, the last little feature we had to talk about of little features, little smokies, little hot dogs on the toothpicks, is that when you purchase fruit crates, supply crate, box crates from the Merchant Alliance, you no longer just get a big old box of useless, idiotic bananas. You will now get a range of fruits, all the way up to pineapple. Sea of Thieves has proven empirically that a pineapple is worth at least 5 bananas.
Yeah, as somebody who's very pro-banana in his life, you know, I advocate for it. I really don't like how Sea of Thieves has just made bananas seem generally worthless in the conventional wisdom.
I think that maybe the lesson is more that bananas are the baseline good thing in the world, but pineapples are just that much better. Like, they're just orgasmic levels of good. If a banana is a good thing, pineapple is unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all the same. I remember when, you know, Sea of Thieves was new, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you eat bananas to get your health back." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you, Rare." And then over time, they've just made that generally mean less and less and less. And now you're just disappointed to see a banana. You have this instinctual reaction where you feel let down every time you see one of these golden yellow slivers. And I don't like having that Pavlovian response to something I'm generally in favor of.
Do you not agree just wholesale that eating a coconut whole, eating a solid coconut is twice as good as eating a banana?
No, that sounds terrible.
What? All right, I feel like I didn't sign up for a debate episode. I don't have time to argue with you. But I mean, I'm not saying bananas are bad. Bananas are good. They're like the default good thing in the world. But coconut, eating a whole solid coconut is got to be twice as better.
Yeah. To be fair, what Sea of Thieves is promoting is scientifically inaccurate, because if you're shot, the first thing you don't want to do is eat a banana. It's really not. It shouldn't be your priority.
Right. Because like Looney Tunes style, that little hole in your chest, and then just like a whole peeled banana is just gonna like slide out. Like you eat it and then it falls out the hole. Right. You're getting no sustenance out of it, no nutrients whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when Bugs Bunny gets shot with a buckshot and then takes a glass of water and drinks it, and then just like 4 or 5 different holes of water spills out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves is basically not real life. I hate to be the one to tell you.
All right, well, do we want to talk about, were there any events during this season? Because I feel as though one of the reasons it's getting harder for me to remember the events of the seasons is we really haven't had any advancement in the narratives of Sea of Thieves. Like for a while there, we had these adventures where they would be akin to the big events of the first year or so, but on a little smaller scale, and they'd be more frequent, and they would advance some aspect of the overarching story for the game. And we haven't really had much of that in the space of the last year or so. And because of that, it's getting very hard, because I am somebody who sees life in the form of narratives. And when you strip those narratives or you don't focus on them, like the only narratives we've really had recently were the Monkey Island Tall Tales, which have been a somewhat removed thing from the broader stories going on in Sea of Thieves. I mean, there was tie-in, but not to the same extent. So it is hard for me to think of things when everything that is being added to the game are quality of life improvements or changes to how you interact with the game world. Not to say I don't enjoy what they've added in season 10, but was there anything to discuss as far as?
Yeah, so, absolutely. I would agree that we're in a sort of dry period for narrative, and they've gone like basically a full year pretty much focused on sort of meta updates to progression systems, updates to like overarching features, not necessarily features that are inside the toolbox of the sandbox, or direct narrative things other than the Monkey Island Tall Tale Saga, which was a self-contained little story. And then, they almost have gone through some eras in Sea of Thieves' 6 years of being around. I just mentally comprehended how long 6 years is. It just hit me like a brick in the head, but wow, 6 years. They started out when they were doing in year 2, monthly updates were all built around mercenary voyages. Yeah. Every time you'd log into the game, every month that they do an update, you would get a new voyage to do from the bilge rats from Duke. Remember Duke?
I remember Duke.
And it would send you on a specific new thing to do, but it would be a voyage you would have to do with some commendations attached. And then they moved away from making it tied to a voyage and made it more about like more free flowing like do X amount of things during the month, and you don't have to be on a voyage to do them, but they're just part of a thing. And then it evolved into adventures, and they're done with adventures. Adventures are not happening. That is not what we're doing. And so it's felt very dry. It's felt very empty in a way. They're not really doing events in the way they used to do. And hopefully that changes in this upcoming year when they're going to talk about their upcoming year on March 20th. But they did have a couple of little background events that they still have ongoing. You know, they're still doing little things. And really, the main takeaway with most of them is that they're sort of underwhelming compared to previous years. But we'll talk about them a little. They did, during Season 10, a Ghoul in Glory weekend, which, so for people not super versed in Sea of Thieves, every season or so, every once in a while, they will do something called a Gold in Glory weekend, which is, in video game parlance, just double XP weekend. You get double gold, double reputation, double allegiance, double favor, double... God, there's so many different income currencies in Sea of Thieves, progression currencies.
Yeah.
But every time they do it around Halloween spooky time, they call it the Ghoul in Glory weekend, which coincides with their annual quote-unquote Festival of the Damned in-universe holiday.
Yeah.
Although this year, maybe the first year that they've probably not the first time they haven't done anything, but they didn't really do a Festival of the Damned event, so to speak, with challenges and rewards, right?
Traditionally, there's always been something, a Blank of the Damned event around mid to late October into November. And you and I, Jeff, we are both aficionados of the Halloween season. It is my favorite holiday. I love folklore. I love urban legends, and I love just classic monsters. You know what I mean?
So spider webs.
Right. The little buckets,
plastic pumpkins,
little buckets you get at McDonald's. Yeah. So I really look forward to Sea of Thieves Halloween, the Festival of the Damned, the in-universe occasion, because Sea of Thieves can have very spooky things in it year-round, and it does, but I love having this celebration in this fictional universe, the rare shared universe that I inhabit mentally, every single day, but I like having this holiday to look forward to, and it's a nice way to extend the Halloween season, because one of the things I hate is come November 1st, everybody's tearing down their dollar store cobwebs, and they're packing up their McDonald's buckets, and all of a sudden it's just all about Christmas time, it's all about the holiday season, and I'm just like, can I have a couple of more weeks of Halloween, of Day of the Dead, of, all of the spooky season stuff, when the veil between this world and the next is at its thinnest? I want to have a couple more weeks of Frankenstein and such. And Sea of Thieves has traditionally provided that. And even when I haven't been gaga, lady or otherwise, over the event they're doing, it's just been nice to log into the game and have the taverns all decked out with the pumpkins and the theremin music. It's it's fun. And we didn't really get much of that this last year. In fact, they reverted the taverns pretty quickly into November. And I'm just like, come on now.
Yeah, no, I'm fully in agreement with you on all of the above. I take a hard stance that the celebration of the holiday season, the December holidays, whatever you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, or anything else, I don't think the holiday season should begin until Black Friday, which is in late November. Like ostensibly, the time to listen to Christmas music or play a Christmas movie should never start before Black Friday. That's too early. I don't want to hear it. But it just keeps happening earlier and earlier every year. And I know you disagree with me on this point, which is, the veil between the worlds, the realms of the land of the living and the dead, is weak during Halloween, but it's also weak at the opposite equinox or whatever in April, which some people, hipster-wise, have started celebrating like Aprilween, and you're not into it because that is when the flowers are coming alive, and that's not
right.
dead. Why would you celebrate a Halloween in April? But, with things like pagan ritual stuff, Walpurgisnacht, also coinciding with a lot of different cultures' celebrations of May Day. To me, that is sort of a spin-off spooky season in and of itself. Various folk festivals in late April. And I think Sea of Thieves should just do Halloween in April as well. But that aside, that's all. That's not relevant. All of that aside.
That's just us griping.
That's
just us griping about things that we should have gotten over months ago.
I just want 2.5. I want 3. But I want 4 months of the year to be Halloween. Is that too much to ask? Is that really hard to do? Because, right now, 4 months of the year are just depression season. So why can't Halloween have 4 months? But yeah, so the Festival of the Damned, they didn't really do an in-game event for it. They did do a Ghoul and Glory weekend. And then they did a spooky sword you can unlock, the Rapier of the Damned. But you just unlocked it just for logging in to the game as a login bonus rather than a reward for killing a skeleton ghost or something spooky. But they did spook up the taverns, not for as long as I would have liked, but they did spook them up. I call them every time they do it every year. And they have not done it every year. There are years where they didn't do it, and those are the years when we complain loudly. But when they do, they spook up the taverns, and I always call it ghoulifying it. The taverns are ghoulified because you just have the theremin music and the gourds and the spiderwebs. What more can a place want than that? But
they can finally put that Grab by the Ghoulies ship set in the game that we've been asking for.
Grab by the Ghoulies.
Ship set.
What do you call that?
Just put
No. I'm thinking of a what do you call it when? Oh no. Shanty. They should have a Grab by the Ghoulies shanty, so you can do the whole disco dance. Yeah, that'd be great. Like if they could make one of the instruments in the game a theremin, that'd be nice. It's sort of piratey in the way that I like it, just like I like pirates. I don't know. So they didn't do much for Halloween. It was just a weekend, and then kind of skipping ahead, they sort of also were underwhelming on the Christmas holiday season as well, because although they did put up a Christmas tree on Sanctuary Outpost, but they didn't do a Christmas lighting ceremony like they did the previous year.
And that really bummed me out because this was the first year where I'm not working just side jobs trying to get by. I'm actually doing DK Vine full time. And so if Rare is having a big event, I can actually say, oh, it's my job to show up for it. And then of course they don't do it this year. Last time I really felt like I was missing out, and all of you like streamed it on our Twitch channel. And I was just like, oh, that would have been cool to be there for. My life sucks. And now they don't do it. I'm like, oh, my life sucks.
Well, I'll say in Sea of Thieves' defense, in Rare's defense, the lighting ceremony last year that you didn't get to participate in, that we did a live stream of, did kind of suck.
I mean, it's a lighting ceremony. I think by default it sucks.
Well, sometimes when there's a Christmas tree lighting ceremony, Gotham gets attacked by a horde of bats, and Max Shrek gets kidnapped or something. But wow,
you don't remember that movie well at all.
A little something. I just watched it this Christmas. I watch it every Christmas.
Okay.
It's not Max Shrek. It isn't his son gets kidnapped, or was it the Winter Queen or whatever her name was?
The Snow Queen, yeah.
Snow Queen of Gotham, yeah. Which sounds like a Batman villain, but is just like a beauty pageant lady. Good movie though. Not for kids. That might be why they pushed Tim Burton out of there. They're like, these aren't really for kids. Like, it's hard to watch. It's hard to sell Happy Meal toys.
No, but I did get all the Happy Meal toys, and I even remember when I was a kid, I was like, kind of feel weird about this. You know, I have this fun little like Catwoman car that I got from my Happy Meal, and she made me feel things that aren't appropriate for McDonald's restaurant. So
yeah, just the leather. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer. Then you've got Danny DeVito biting off noses and just like dying with black sludge puking up out of his throat. Like that makes for a great Happy Meal toy.
That also turned me on, and I'm still not sure why.
Yeah. No, I had Super Batman Returns on the Super Nintendo back when I was -8 years old or so, and yeah, it was cool. Anyway, so,
sorry.
Yeah, no lighting ceremony. They did bring back the Bone Chiller costume, which is probably my favorite of the costumes.
It's a good costume.
Some more Bone Chiller cosmetics. Yeah, you know how they took the Soul Flame costume, which is a Halloween-based costume, sort of themed around the brazier of fates or whatever, the well of fates on the Ferry of the Damned.
Yeah,
that. Not that kind of brazier.
Sorry. My mind's stuck in that mode now.
Where the flames of fate come from. Whenever you die, as we all know from our religions, when you die, there is a torch that is a certain color based on the way that you die. So, like, there's a certain color for heart disease. There's a certain color for suicide. There's a certain color for being poisoned by the Kraken. All of the ways that a human can die. And yeah, so there's that costume. And then, anyway, where I'm going with this was, they then took that costumed character that was just kind of invented by the art team and invented by the costume team, and they sort of made it canon by eventually making that an enemy you could fight in the game during some of those adventure events. I want them to do that with the Bone Chiller, which is basically the Sea of Thieves version of Krampus.
Yeah.
But it's a skeleton man.
It is kind of frustrating they haven't done that yet. Especially, like, I would just be okay with this possibility that you could run into the Bone Chiller, like, on islands during the holiday season. It could just be this kind of thing where it's like, ooh, let's see if we can find the Bone Chiller. He's out there somewhere. And,
Yeah. Like almost like what's that skeleton of ancient coins? Ancient skeleton is what it's called, actually. Just like a random event that could happen while you're playing your sessions, and then like everyone just starts hearing Christmas music, and you're like, "What is that?" Oh, and then this Bone Chiller comes up out of the dirt and just like runs away with the Christmas gifts, and you got to go kill him.
Yeah,
smash his skull in. Yeah. Oh, that'd be so cool. And then you get a Christmas gift.
That would be great. See, we should just run Sea of Thieves. We have the ideas.
We do have all the ideas. And then one of the other events that happened during the season, the last one we'll talk about, Community Weekend happens every season. Community Weekend is a weekend where, well, it used to be Community Day, and it was one day, and they expanded it because there are people that will complain and say, well, that was the day I had to work. I'm an adult. I do taxes, blah, blah, blah. So they had to expand it. So it became a weekend, 3 or 4 day or whatever event, where during that time, you get boosted rewards based on, I think, social media engagement. I mean, they changed the rules from season to season. They kind of tweak it, what they're doing. But it's also just sort of a time when they're trying to celebrate the community and reblog, repost, retweet, share things that are going on and highlight people. But it always just feels like here's a double XP weekend, go at it type thing. But this one was special for 2 reasons. One, they did this pop-up plunder event, where they were posting these sort of puzzles of maps to social media every hour, and if you solved it, there would be a location in the game you could go to dig up treasure, but everyone in your game world would be potentially fighting over that same treasure. They would all have the clue at the same time. And then the second reason this was special is that I was busy that weekend. I didn't do this. I don't know. I don't even know how this went. I don't know if it was fun or cool. I didn't pay any. I was real busy that time.
So I remember we got Pop-Up Plunder once, and we went after it, and we got it. It was something really disappointing. It wasn't that spectacular, and I was like, well, this is kind of a letdown. Like whatever plunder was popped up was something very basic and bland, and not sexy at all, like Catwoman in 1992's Batman Returns.
It's like the new Wonka. Bingo. See, I'm trying to keep our references a little contemporary. I know that I fall into the trap of only wanting to reference 1992's Batman Returns movie by Tim Burton.
Yeah.
But I try to break out of that once in a while and reference something new, like Wonka, now on HBO Max.
Or that Willy Wonka pop-up experience, like Pop-Up Plunder, except it...
Oh, yeah. Fuck. That's such a better reference.
Yeah. That's where I thought you were going to go with it, because...
There's somebody better... Yeah, no, mine is just dumb.
Okay. It's all right.
Well, you said like bland and not sexy, and my brain, for some reason, was just like, oh, that Wonka movie I didn't watch. I'm getting a lot of ads for it.
Timothy... What the hell is his last name?
Timothy Charleston.
Yeah,
and
Timothy Charleston Chu doesn't do it for you?
It's Chum Chucker Charlie. So, I don't think that movie looks good at all. Are you excited about it? I've seen the commercial about 4,000 times.
The only Wonka thing I've ever enjoyed was the actual original book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Now I see it as just that's kind of problematic in that one bit. Oh. No,
I thought you were going to say the only Wonka thing you ever enjoyed was Nerds Clusters.
I was thinking about
they are good.
I was thinking about why I don't think Nerds Clusters are vegan. I think they use gelatin and the goo that clusters them, so I can't eat them.
Man,
but original,
it's hard out here.
Original Nerds candy, or even Runts. And Runts, you get the banana one, and people were like, "Ooh, I don't want the banana one," but I could go for a candied banana right now for sure.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Runts. I do like those. I like the banana one.
You put a little quarter.
It's half as good as the coconut one.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah,
okay.
What I want is Sea of Thieves branded Runts, where you get the bananas, but you also get a coconut, a pomegranate, big old pineapple.
Yeah, and an Umbra splash tail, uncooked.
Occasionally, you'll just get a handful of grubs.
They're burnt. Burn the grubs. Grubs are good. Eating grubs in Sea of Thieves is good luck, and Hyle refuses to do it, even though it would help our team. That's not relevant. That's just something I want the audience to know about him.
Jeff's big mad at me for not eating the worms in the game.
Yeah, well, eating worms is a feature, and you, as a critical reviewer, are obligated to check it out, see if you like it. That could be the next Lorena Bildrat event. Just eat a bunch of grubs.
I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. Where you have to eat 500 grubs.
It's season 11 Worm Week. It's Worm Week. Who can eat the most worms this week? If you collect 100 worms, you'll get the worm rapier cutlass. If you collect 200 worms, you'll get the worm eater title. And it's a limited time event.
This is like the future. This is looking like 15 to 20 years in the future, when like Rare's moved on to other things, but they have a skeleton crew in Sea of Thieves. And like they brought in that burned out Oompa Loompa from the Willy Wonka pop-up experience, and they just don't care about their job, and so they come up with Worm Week.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that if we might want to wait until March 20th before we trash on Worm Week, because when they do their Sea of Nintendo Direct, also when you said burn out Oompa Loompa, my brain immediately thought of Hugh Grant from the Wonka movie, and I was like, wow, rude. He's not burnout. He was in the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Come on. No, we love you, Hugh. I know you listen. So don't pay any attention to Hyle.
He's a Hugh fan.
I'm a huge fan.
That's bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I like his rom-com music and lyrics, co-starring Drew Barrymore and Brad Garrett. Check it out.
Check it out.
Stuff that's old can still be good. I think that's the theme of the episode. So now let's move on to the real features. Everything we've said so far in the previous, 59 minutes, has not been serious.
No.
Let's get serious. No. It's time.
Yeah, it's Jeff. This is what happens.
It's time to talk about.
This is what happens when we don't do a podcast together for months. Is we have to get it all out. We have to get the nonsense out somehow. And you haven't been on many Sunday morning stream of Thieves lately either. So
I work all the time. I get so tired. I'm busy. I have things I have to do. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm a burnt out little boy. I don't get to play Sea of Thieves with my friends.
No.
We just went a whole stream on Sunday where we just sang John Mellencamp on repeat. It didn't make any sense.
It didn't.
You're just sucking on chili dogs for 3 hours. Sorry, I burped onto my microphone.
You sucked a little bit too hard there.
Yeah, chili dogs will do that to you. But hey, Hyle, let's talk about guilds. Did you predict it would be an hour into the episode until someone said guilds?
I thought it would be 20 minutes.
I didn't.
This exceeded my expectations. Bravo.
Well, let's speed through the rest. Everything else was the important stuff. Hyle, tell me and our audience, for anyone who doesn't know, what are guilds in Sea of Thieves?
So guilds are the next level of engagement with Sea of Thieves. So they introduced captaincy. What season was that? Was that season 5, season 6?
Season 7.
Season 7. I was close. 7. I was going to get there eventually. Season 7.
It was one. You said one of the numbers. It was a different one. So you were on the right track.
So they introduced captaincy, which finally enabled players who had progressed far enough and who had enough money, who had enough in-game gold to finally buy their own ship. And you give it a little name, and it's yours. It's yours to decorate. It's yours to keep. You're no longer using these dirty rentals, and who knows where those rentals have been. It's disgusting. You shine a black light on it. You see all the little stains, and you're like, oh my God, they didn't clean this. But this is yours, and it's yours to do with what you wish, which is probably stain it. But anyway, captaincy was this huge thing for me personally, for other players too, but this is what I had been wanting in the game. The ability to have our own ship, to make it feel a little bit more personalized, so everything doesn't feel quite as tertiary in the game, where you're just logging in, you're playing, but there's this kind of distance being kept. Having a ship makes it feel much more tangible in some fashion, for me at least. But I thrive on narratives, and to say my ship did this, went on this great adventure, experienced that, went there with my crew. That's cool. Anyway, so how do you build on that? Well, with guilds, it effectively lets you extend that adventure beyond just the players you usually sail with. So in the past, the most you could do was have a galleon crew of 4 players, and then maybe you could make alliances with other ships on the server. But then that would be it, and that alliance would end the moment you logged off. Guilds allow you to effectively keep that alliance going, and not just on one server. It's a permanent thing, a permanent bond between players. You're all in one guild together, and you're all progressing towards the same goals. Is that a good enough explanation?
I really don't think it was. I thought it was sort of long-winded and didn't really explain it much.
All right.
Because I have attention disorders. So,
I'm sorry.
But what I'll say, no, you're good. Hyle, I like it when you talk because of your dulcet tones. But, guilds are basically a club that you join that exists outside of game, a sort of asynchronous meta progression thing outside of your session. You are part of a club, and you've got all your friends together. All your friends are in the club, and DK Vine has one, the DK Vine Guild, and all of our friends, all of our little friends, you and me and the rest of them, we're all part of this club. So anytime anyone in the club wants to sail, we sail for the guild, and then we're all, one, able to work towards group progression goals. Like we're leveling up our guild. Like we're leveling up the club itself and earning rewards that everyone gets to have and share.
Yeah.
But also there's the social side of just being able to see when other people sail. What did they do? What did they progress? Like, oh, they had this session and these are the things that happened to them. Wow, they killed 3 megalodons during their session. That's cool that my friend Tim sailed with Tim and the Tim boys. I get to see what he did, and then also you get to share your ships, which is just what you said about captaincy and how it made the ships feel alive and feel owned and tangible. It's an extension of that is just being able to share your ship to the guild and then sail on your friends' ships, or your friends sail on your ship if you want to do that.
Yeah, so we have the DK Vine Guild, and we have, I don't even know how many ships are in it now. It's quite a bit. It's quite a hefty number, because everybody has multiple ships at this point. And we've pledged our ships to the guild, and some ships, you can keep private. I don't want anybody else using my ship, leaving their stains. But other ships, you can say, everybody can sail on this one. This is a group ship. This is an orgy boat, effectively. And
what's cool about that with the captaincy part of it, what's cool is in captaincy, what the captaincy system ostensibly boiled down to was just a ton more stat tracking, where the game was keeping track of all these things you've done just for the sake of seeing the stats go up. And then, of course, that tied into some rewards. It tied into the alignment system, which was like just sort of seeing like, hey, based on your stats and the stuff you level up most, when you're on that ship, you're more of a PvP guy. Or this ship has leveled up more of the voyaging versus the gold seeking, or whatever, all the alignments, and just seeing the personality of it play out through the stats. But what it kind of boiled down to was some of those stats are for your player, what you personally have done, and some of those stats are for your ship. Stuff that has happened aboard your ship, stuff that's happened to your ship, or your ship has accomplished.
Yeah.
And now that we have the ability to share ships, those stats are just like still being like that progress is shared even when I'm not on my own ship. If somebody else takes my ship out and kills a megalodon, I can see the history of my ship and see how, it's killed all these megalodons. I wasn't even always there, but my ship was there and it did it. Like my ship, the CV Dan, which is my sloop. I can see when other people take it out and earn those little progresses. It's neat. I think that it's something that's very easy to not care at all about if you want to, but if you kind of care about it, if it's interesting to you, it's actually super cool when you dive into it and see all of the stuff. If you're the person who would care about it, then you definitely will care about it.
For me, it's made the game feel a whole lot more alive, in that before Sea of Thieves, even though it has this narrative and it has this really immersive world, you can kind of get lost in just the reality that you are playing on a shared server, one of many, many, many servers, and it's a closed ecosystem. So you're not really sailing with the thousands of other players. But what Guilds does is kind of creates this cord, this umbilical cord between you and your friends. So when we are sailing, we will get notifications when somebody else in the guild sets sail. And even though they won't be on our server, it still feels like they are out there and we are sharing something together. And just that little bit makes it really, really more investing for you, for me at least. Like you brought up how cool it was. Like you were looking at the guild stats one day and you just saw like I had gone fishing one afternoon. I took my new brigantine out, and then you saw somebody else did this and somebody else did that, and we're all contributing to the larger guild progress. And it really does have the effect of making, like, they've already improved this dramatically as Sea of Thieves has gone on, where no session in Sea of Thieves feels wasted at this point, where even if you lose all your treasure, even if you don't really achieve any grand objective, you still accomplished something. Like the addition of seasonal renown helped do that. But then you get to level 100, and then what? Well, now you can build up your ships. Okay, but what if you're sailing on your friend's ship? Well, you've got your own pirate stats attached to that, but now you can also work towards the guild. So it really does make it feel like you've always got something cooking when you're playing Sea of Thieves.
Yeah. And I want to stress it never feels like you're playing just to make the numbers go up.
No.
You are playing to have fun. Like when you go out on a session and just fish, you might not be accomplishing anything, and you might go into it knowing that there isn't anything you're planning to accomplish, but you just feel like fishing. You're doing it because you want to fish. But then it is nice to know that like that is contributing to something, and then you also are like seeing some of those stats change. And it's more like you're not doing it to influence the stats, but it is just a nice bonus to have the stats and see like, oh, it's cool to reflect on, wow, this is how many ancient terror megalodons I've killed. That's cool to know that number, and it's cool to see these things. And then like what you said, it's just you are already playing the game and you're sailing along, and then you get a pop-up that says that one of your friends just set sail for the guild on one of the guild ships, and you're not sailing together. You're not going to run into each other. You're never going to have a social interaction, but it still feels really social. It's like almost counterintuitive. It's a layer that feels hard to sell you on because it sounds like it's nothing, but it's actually huge. It's an asynchronous meta level of socialization, and yet it makes it feel way more alive. I see what my friends are doing. I see when my different friends get together with each other or when they're not playing with me, and I see what they did, and then it's just cool. I don't know. It's just cool.
Like
we have our own little club.
Yeah, and for example, like here in the live stream chat right now, we've got Porygon Q. Porygon Q joined our guild, and we often see them setting sail when we're streaming. And it's just this really cool, like, little aspect that makes you feel more engaged with not just the game, but also your little social circle. And I love seeing the little DK Vine, like, plaque on the mast of all of our pledged ships. It's just this really, like, thrilling thing. Like, yeah, like, we almost have our own little armada of ships at this point. And I did, like, for the longest time, I just had my galleon, the Dreadfully Evil, because I mostly just sailed on Sundays with the full crew, rotating crew, and I just never really needed a sloop. But with the addition of Season 10 and guilds, I have since gotten my sloop, the Sloop Billy S., which, of course, is a play on Sloop John B., the classic Beach Boys rendition of it from 1966 Pet Sounds, and tweaks that a little bit to reference, of course, the other famous addition to the pop rock annals of late 1966, Paul McCartney's replacement, Billy Shears.
Shears. Yeah.
William
Campbell Shears. Yeah.
Well, yes, or William Campbell Shepard, depending on which version of the lore you subscribe to. But anyway,
lore, otherwise known as just fake rumors, but it's fun.
No, it's fun because it gives us a whole extra Beatle. So we have that. We have that. And then so I got that sloop, and I just what that made me want to do then was I want to build up my sloop credentials. And so I made this my party sloop. So I would play shanties on it. I would drink heavily on it, and I would boost my ship's renown by just being this lazy vagabond, just going about doing nothing. But it was fun. It was fun to progress a ship in a way that you don't normally progress it. And then from there, I wanted to get a brigantine and pledge it to the guild. And so I finally got a brigantine. I named it the Hard Light Holodeck. Now, let me explain why I named it that really quick, Jeff. So it's stormfish themed, and stormfish are effectively swordfish in Sea of Thieves that you catch during storms. And so I've got the figurehead, I've got it all decked out, and I'm using the killer whale figurehead that you get from the Hunter's Call faction training company. And it looks...
Which is named the killer whale, but it is not a killer whale or an orca. It is a swordfish.
It's a swordfish, and it has a paint job. I believe it's a deliberate reference, a deliberate homage to Engard, the swordfish.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I vaguely remember it being like all but directly confirmed to us that it was a deliberate reference.
Yes.
But now I don't want to say that like it's a fact because I don't have the facts to back it up.
The fact that it even has cartoony eyes, I think, speaks to the fact that, probably, because nothing else, no other fish in the game have cartoony eyes. So it looks cartoony, at least to me. So anyway, you got the Engard connection for me. And so, of course, I named it after my own fanon theory that the second Engard in Coral Capers is a hard light hologram. But how does that make sense within a lore of Sea of Thieves, you ask? Well, swordfish in this game are stormfish, so you only catch them when there's lightning. And what is lightning if not hard light? And the brigantine is renowned for being just one long deck. The shape of it is just one long ship's deck. And the word hollow is derived from the Greek term meaning all or everything. So a hard light holodeck, it's not a Star Trek reference and a play on hologram. It's referencing that it's a brigantine. It's all deck. So I thought about it. I justified it. There you go.
Yeah, Hyle, we might both have some sort of yet undiscovered kind of mental illness because my sloop is called the CV Dan, which is a reference to the band Steely Dan, but also a reference to the real-life pirate Dan Seavey, who was a Lake Michigan pirate. Because I live in the state of Michigan, and around the Great Lakes state, and Dan Seavey was a pirate that sailed the Great Lakes, stealing cargoes that were often en route from one place to from Chicago to elsewhere, or from elsewhere to Chicago. And he did a lot of cool stuff, often called moon cussing, which is a sort of pirate tactic of shining lights from the shore so people think that is a lighthouse, but you just lead them into rocks and they crash. And then when they crash and die, you go and pick up all their stuff. Or that's what I almost named my sloop the Moon Cusser, but it is themed around moon iconography.
Yeah.
But one of the other things he did, this is so off topic, but I'm just excited to talk about Dan Seavey. When have I ever had that chance? But one time he boarded a ship with a crate full of rum, and just using charisma and sneakiness, just got aboard and started giving rum to people and like partying with them. And then he got everyone so drunk that he threw them overboard and then sailed the ship away by himself because he was not drunk. He was pretending to drink. And then he stole all their cargo.
Wow.
And sold it for pirate money. Yeah, so the CV dance, the sloop, we both are way overthought it, I think, is the issue. Yeah.
That sounds cool. You know, all the chicanery he engaged in, but they probably shouldn't have made Happy Meal toys about him. It's probably too far.
No, there was that part where he was puking up black sludge, and then, he was throwing all of the stuffed animals down the garbage disposal. It was just so sad, that scene. The cats are licking the blood in the alley. That's not for kids, that movie.
No.
Oh, remember when Christopher Walken gets burnt up into a little crispy bacon boy?
Yeah, that was scary. That was scary for me. I didn't want to see that.
It's a scary film. And Danny DeVito falls down, and the penguin funeral procession carries him into the sea, into the sewer.
Yeah, but yeah, in short, we put way too much thought in our ship names, but at least we didn't just name it the Black Pearl like we saw last Sunday.
We did. Yeah. We did see that, yeah.
Just gotta come on now.
It's always fun, actually, to see when you get down the spyglass and you look at another ship and you can see what they've named it. That's probably the best part of the captaincy feature, is just being able to see what other strangers are naming their stuff.
Yeah.
From a distance. It's just never not fun. It's always fun. It's a little fun.
Yeah, and I love guilds.
Yeah, no, I'm loving guilds. I think it's a sort of soft-spoken feature. It's not game-changing in a massive way. It's not fundamental in any way, but it is just so nice to have. And we're just that slight social element when I play with a crew of 3 friends, and that's all the socialization I'm going to get. But with guilds, all of my other friends that happen to be busy that day or not online at that time, I still am sort of socializing with them because I see what they've been doing when they do play and hop in the game, and we're all contributing to the shared goal. It's just great.
It really is. And the guild emissaries might be my favorite form that the emissaries have taken, because like before, like the being a Reaper emissary would grant you like everything you can acquire builds towards Reaper emissary, whereas this is more of the benign, potentially good guy version of that, where you're not necessarily pillaging other ships. You're not also marked on the map as a Reaper. Here, like everything you acquire can go towards the guild emissary, which you then sell to the sovereigns. But also things like fishing gets your guild emissary up, and that's perfect for our guild, where lots of people in it just love the fishing mechanic of the game and love collecting, trying to catch them all, literally in this case.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny that like before, let's say you're playing as a gold hoarder emissary, it means that the only thing that will, and for anyone who doesn't know, emissary in Sea of Thieves is a system where you opt in to putting up this flag that will make you more of a target to other players. Mm-hmm. Because if other players sink you, they can sell your flag. Your flag itself is valuable to them. But by doing this and increasing that risk, you'll increase the rewards you can get, because as you play through your session, you can level up the emissary through these various grades that will then add multipliers to all the treasure you sell. So you can get this multiplier that will eventually make all your treasure worth more than double what it normally would be worth. But the risk is then that anyone who sees you might decide they want to sink you and steal your flag, which is valuable. That's what an emissary is. But if you chose to be an emissary for a specific company, like the Gold Hoarders or the Order of Souls, you're only going to get your grade up when you find treasures that go for that company, like gold treasures for the Gold Hoarders or skeleton skulls for the Order of Souls, etc. When you're a guild emissary, everything you do raises your guild grade, your emissary grade, and everything you sell is boosted by that multiplier. So that's great. But what's really funny about it is that with everything else, it's like if you get to if you get to grade 4.8. You're going to be like, well, we don't want to stop playing until we get to grade 5. So we can sell everything at the max multiplier. But we have to go find something specific to the company so we can get a little more grade. And it's a little bit of a hassle sometimes if you're at a certain timing of it. But with Guild Emissary, if you're at 4.8 out of 5, you just say, well, let's just fish. And it just makes it so that every session we end with just like a quick little fishing trip where everyone is fishing and cooking the fish to just try to get a little bit more emissary grade. And I don't know, something about it just makes me giggle. Just like, all right, we're almost done, but we want to get to grade 5. Let's all stop what we're doing and go fishing.
But it's so quick. Even cooking the fish gets your grade up. So it's just a really simple exploit. And it also puts more importance on fishing, which I feel like the Hunter's Call in general has just kind of been sort of left in the dust as Sea of Thieves has evolved. And so it gives a little bit more shine on that again.
It's one of those features. I think with Sea of Thieves, they often will go through the sort of tough decision of like, we could update this thing, but if we want to update that thing, we really want to like commit to doing a big update to that thing. So let's put it on the back burner. I feel like that's where the Hunter's Call is where they could incrementally give it some attention, but they've made the choice to be like, no, if we're going to update the Hunter's Call, let's make a big like 2.0 advancement. And that's just not the highest priority right now. So, hey, maybe on March 20th, maybe they will have something to say about the Hunter's Call. I don't know.
I hope so, because every time they add a new back burner to put something on, it deletes one of my trinkets. Come on.
Love it or list it, Hyle. I'm tired of this. Let's move on.
Yes.
After October, we've now made it out of the first of 3 months of this season.
Well, I think we had
After October,
we had more to talk about with guilds that we're going to have to talk about with this one, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, I think 30 seconds or less. What do you think of the Skull of Siren Song? No, I'm just kidding. No, in November they came out with the new key feature was the Skull of Siren Song Voyage, this new emergent world event, like other world events like the Skull Forts, the Skeleton ship battles, the Ashen Winds battles, the Flameheart Burning Blade Ghost ship battles. These are sort of like raids in sort of video game MMO parlance. But it's an event going on in the world that all players can see is happening, and any ship, any players could all choose to go do it at the same time, and that would invite maybe conflict or cooperation or whatever. It would invite interaction between ships. This is a new one that is interesting because when it happens, when this world event goes live, it will put this sort of ghostly apparition of a parchment nailed to your mast on the ship. And you'll get a pop-up on screen that says it's going on, which is sort of immersion breaking, but whatever. And if you go to this parchment, you can basically sign up to be like, yeah, I want to do it. I want to do the Skull of Siren Song Voyage. And when you do, you'll get the ghost of Captain Briggsy in a sort of canonicity confusing way, like a lore way that it's what is Briggsy up to right now? Well, it's confusing.
Well, okay,
is she a ghost?
Yeah,
is she a human?
Let me try to parse this out really quick. So Captain Briggsy, of course, was an infamous skeleton lord introduced in the Sea of Thieves lore and factored in heavily in the first set of Tall Tales, the Shores of Gold campaign. And she became a very popular character, very evocative design, very memorable, and she kind of developed a fan following, not unlike the Boba Fett from off of Star Wars. And people were like, we want more of Captain Briggsy. And her story kind of ended, with like the second Tall Tale. So how do you squeeze more life out of a skeleton that's already been shattered? So through a lot of convoluted storytelling, and I love convoluted storytelling, do not get me wrong, but I stuck with Lost to the very end, and I defend it. So it's basically, going into the Sea of the Damned, you can encounter memories. Like memories made real. And we encountered the memory of Captain Briggsy at one point in one of the adventures. And then she became a real ghost?
I forget. But, yeah, so when your pirate dies in Sea of Thieves, your spirit is in the Sea of the Damned.
Yeah.
And then there is a character named the Ferryman who is basically pledged to take souls that are sort of lost in the Sea of the Damned and bring them back to the land of the living after they've suffered enough or learned their lesson or whatever. And that is how you respawn. That's a lore explanation for the video game mechanic of having infinite lives and respawns. But while you're in the Sea of the Damned, you're a ghost, you're a spirit, and the world that you inhabit is sort of made up of your memories. Now, this doesn't, you as a player don't see this because when you just die, you go straight to the ferry and you just respawn. But this is like in the lore, what happens when people are in the Sea of the Damned. It's sort of like, it's an abstract thing of like how much time you spent in purgatory is not perceptible.
Right.
Because when you come back, like no time has passed. But in theory, you were in a state of purgatory for some amount of time.
It's like Lost, season 6.
Time moves different.
Yeah, it's like Lost season 6 when you're in the Flash sideways. There is no now.
Yeah, I think the Flash went sideways by season 3. Sorry, CW, you just got burned. But yeah, no. So the Sea of the Damned, it's a realm where memories get manifested as sort of astral projections or ghostly apparitions, and then they sort of become real semi-sentient things that are sort of stuck repeating events, and then through certain ways they can find portals to the real world, which is why phantoms will haunt the islands of Sea of Thieves, ghosts and phantom ships that are memories of ships. And in some way, Briggsy as a memory of Briggsy, then through... Oh, God, I can't remember. The adventure was well over a year ago.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with taking a year off of continuing the story, is that I forgot where they were at. You gotta, you can't just like vaguely advance the story once a month and then stop for 15 months and then expect me to remember what happened to Briggsy. But I think she became real life. Her little ghosty became less ghosty.
Yeah, well, this is also a memory of Briggsy from before she was a skeleton. So it's human Briggsy wearing the mask.
Right. The ghost memory of Briggsy. The memory of human Briggsy
as a ghost.
Which was manifested in the ghost realm. A memory manifestation in Ghost World then became flesh manifest in the real world through some manner of magics, I think. But that's not important because in this voyage...
I'm not done talking about this, Jeff.
Yeah.
This
Go ahead.
Okay. So
unless you reference Lost again, I'm done with that.
I'm not gonna reference Lost or Batman Returns this time. So she's not the actual soul of the genuine Briggsy, because that's also a thing in the game. This is basically a time displaced clone of Briggsy from when she was human, a memory made into a real thing. Now, did she become fleshy at the end of that adventure?
I don't remember if she became fleshy, but she stopped being green ghost and became like,
because I also remember like at the end of the pirate's life, Tall Tales, like a bunch of the ghosts got their bodies back, but Pendragon had the option, but he stayed a ghost, and I equated it to like holding in a fart. So
I do remember that. You can go back and listen to the Kongversation.
Yeah.
Previous episodes. The
if
previous
Briggsy,
1000.
I can't remember if Briggsy was supposed to become human. She did become less green. I remember that, and that's where it's tripping me up.
Our good friend Dre is listening to this and just probably screaming internally.
Oh yeah, because Dre is the #1 Briggsy fan.
It's our job to know this.
Well, the thing is, there's so many characters in Sea of Thieves, and I like the freaks, like Salty, and like I can't keep
Oh,
track.
they could bring back the memory of Salty the man before Salty turned into a skeleton parrot. And if you don't know, if you're listening to this not being a fan of Sea of Thieves, that whole sentence will be wild to listen to. But
Yeah.
we're not going to explain it.
Anyway,
anyway, Briggsy, I think Briggsy became real, and yet this voyage is presenting her once again as a ghost or a memory.
She's a memory made into a real ghost, but where we're getting tripped up is whether that ghost then became a real human again. I know Dre doesn't like this because it breaks the Briggsy lore.
Maybe a hard light hologram, but so now that we've just spent that 20 minutes on the lore of it, let's tell people what this Skull of Siren Song event is.
Oh, I've never played it.
Oh, that's not true.
That's a lie. No, I'm joking.
Okay, God, yeah. I was thinking, Did he? Did we do it together? I was like, you actually had me for a second.
Because the lore is so stupid. Is a world event. The lore is so stupid, I'm just boycotting it, Jeff.
No, this is the third Briggsy clone. It's not stupid. It makes perfect sense. But yeah, so the ghost of Captain Briggsy appears on your ship to tell you that she is searching for a artifact called the Skull of Siren Song, which is a skull of a siren, basically.
Yeah.
And
basically.
It has magical properties. And she's like, go find it. So you get a voyage in your quest radial that is telling you go to one island to dig up an X marks a spot and go to another island to dig up an X marks a spot. One of those islands will get you a chest called the Chest of Siren Song, but it's locked. The other one you go to will give you a key, the key of Siren Song, which opens the chest. And when you open the chest, inside, obviously, you find the Skull of Siren Song. Mm. The twist on it is that because this little ghostly apparition of parchment that appears on your mast, it appears to every ship on the server at the same time. And so anybody who sees that can opt into the voyage at the same time. And they will all get the same maps to go to the same place to get that chest and that key. And that means that multiple crews might be trying to get it at the same time. And that will just invite them to fight over it. What even furthers this is that once you do get the key and chest together, if you can do so, you open it and you get the skull. The skull is actually cursed. And it has two main curse effects. One is if you're carrying the skull on land, everywhere you go, you will endlessly be attacked by skeletons that will spawn out of the earth to come attack you in a sort of skeleton spawning kind of way. Once you get the skull onto your ship and you're out at sea, the whole ship glows with a cursed blue glow that indicates that your ship actually, your max sailing speed has been reduced. You're slowed down while you have the skull. And the purpose of that is so that if there are multiple crews fighting over getting this and going to these locations to try to get this, you now become a target. Everyone can see where the skull is on the map, and your ship is slowed down to make you a target that is catchable.
Yeah.
Because probably one of the least fun times in Sea of Thieves is just like chasing somebody that's just like out of reach and you can't get to them. So if this is a game of cat and mouse, they have given the mouse like an anvil attached to their little paw that slows them down, but it's a mouse-sized anvil, so they can still drag it. The metaphor really didn't work. Yeah, so then you have to then sail to third location, which is, it will appear on the map as like a vortex of blue light that you then go sail like a beacon. And if you go there, you'll find Captain Briggsy somewhere on that island.
You have to search for her, though. She's not
just
going to be like standing in the same spot.
Right. She's around somewhere, and she'll call out to you, being like, "Hey, come on, hurry up, idiot!" Like whatever she says.
Yeah, it's
really kind of after. Yeah. It's mean. She's mean about it. Not nice. Mean, basically.
She's as mean as an HGTV show about showing people their dream houses and say, "Not for you."
Do you think that reality is mean? Do you think that helping people realize what they can feasibly achieve, that's mean.
I think
Showing
reality,
people that
I think
you need to rein in your expectations so I can actually help you in a pragmatic sense. You think that's mean?
I think reality shows are mean. And yes, reality itself is quite mean, and that's our fault. We've let it get to that stage. We could be a lot nicer.
I didn't do it.
If we all just agreed to be nice. Think about it, Jeff.
I can't. Well, all the mean stuff that happens to me makes me want to be mean to the other people there are. So
no, that's just paying it forward. That's just like hurting people.
Well, tell those people to be nice to me.
I am.
I don't know where
right
I'm
now.
going with this. I'm actually kind of a nice person, Hyle. I don't know where this conversation is coming from.
No, I'm not saying
I think
you're not nice.
I think you and I are fairly nice.
I'm saying the reality shows you're watching are pretty mean.
Well, it's HGTV, not. I thought I would come up with it's not something else, but I didn't come up with one. So we'll edit it in post.
It's HGTV, not HGT of Friends. This is Jeff Onan.
You have to find Briggsy. You have to sell the Skull of Siren Song, and then you get a big old payday. There's an issue with this voyage, Hyle.
What's the issue?
It has a glaring issue. The issue is kind of an issue that's really common in Sea of Thieves when they come out with something new. But in particular, whenever they come out with something new that is reliant on the notion of incentivized interactivity between crews, whenever they have a thing that's like, hey, we got a new thing that makes one crew have to maybe fight another crew, or maybe just have to run into another crew more often or whatever, it's like really kind of exciting for about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's no longer the new thing to do, nobody's doing it. And if nobody's doing it, but then you go to do it, you're going to go do it, but then there will be nobody doing it. So you will not have that interactivity. You will not have that incentivized collision with another ship. And this voyage, when there is not another ship chasing you, is really not interesting, right? It's very straightforward. It's go to Island A to get a chest, go to Island B to get a key, go to Island C to deliver the, point A to point B to point C. The whole thing that makes it interesting is when every other crew you see, you're sort of paranoid about, are they going to that other island? Are they going to my island? Are they following me? Are they on this voyage, or are they just doing their own thing? And then when they do collide, you're like, all right, I've got the chest, but it looks like on our map we got the pop up. Somebody else dug up the key. We've got the chest and someone has the key. So we're gonna have to go sail to them and fight them, or maybe they're going to chase us, and maybe we can use them chasing us as a defensive position to launch a sneak attack. I don't know. How are we going to do this? This intricate sort of, do we hide? Do we chase? Do we run? Do we just go right for a fight? And then that climactic moment when you get the key, the skull, and you're running on the island to find Briggsy, but you're being chased and somebody's fighting you over it, and maybe they kill you and they pick it up, but then your crewmate kills them and then they pick it up, and you're still running because you're not quite sure where Briggsy even is at, and there's multiple crews fighting, and you actually have 3 ships here. It can be super exciting, but I super struggle to imagine it ever providing that experience for us ever again, now that it's not in that first 2 weeks of like, people will definitely engage with this when they see it.
Yeah, like I think it's a fun idea, and I've had I think a similar sensation to fun. Like, we've only done it a few times. And I say we, not necessarily you and me, but just the crew. We've done it a few times. It's something we don't go out of our way to do, because it just feels like, oh, if we do that, then that's going to be our focus for the next however amount of time in the stream, and maybe we want to do something else. So it hasn't really been something we've engaged with all too often. The few times we've done it, I've had fun, even though I think we only encountered another crew once, maybe. But you still have that paranoia. You still have that fight or flight sensation the whole time. And it kind of harkens back a little bit, obviously on a much wider scale and without the actual frenzied guarantee of like ship to ship or player versus player combat. It reminds me a little bit of the arena back in the day, where you have this thing on your ship, and it's a beacon, and you've got to cash it in before other players grab it from you and cash it in themselves. But like you said, it just, if not enough people are doing it, then it just kind of becomes this feature that's there, but people aren't really utilizing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, unfortunately, a common thing that can happen with some features in Sea of Thieves. They come out with something that is reliant on people engaging with it, and when people get bored of engaging with it, then it itself becomes boring for the people that try to engage with it, and that just feeds into itself. It's like if you have 100% engagement, then it's super exciting, but when that starts to tail off and you jump in and it's only exciting 75% of the time, then maybe you stop doing it, and that feeds into it. So now if someone else jumps in, maybe it's only exciting 50% of the time, so maybe they stop doing it, and then all of a sudden nobody's ever doing it because it's never exciting. And that's just how it goes. I think that there's ways they can fix that with sort of some of the feature set that they've introduced in Season 11, but we're not going to discuss that because today we're talking about Sea of Thieves Season 10 here on the Kongversation Season 12. But yeah, I had probably 2 or 3 semi-good experiences with this, but I had one really good where I was solo slooping and I was after it, and I went and then I got the chest, someone else got the key. They were also a solo sloop, so I came in to fight them and ended up winning. I got the key, I opened the thing, and I went and I got the skull, but then I had to go to location 3, the third location, and there was a colon in there, like a title. But when I was on my way to location 3, the third location, the ship that I sank respawned and started chasing me, and then ship number 3, the third ship, started trying to cut us off at the pass. They were like, well, I'm the third ship, I'm the third one to be involved in this, and I'm not going to chase them, I'm going to go straight to the Briggsy Island and wait for them. So then it ended up being this like 3-way chaos fest of I'm getting shot at by the ship that's chasing me, but I'm just trying to bum rush to the island. But then once I get there close, I realize there's someone already at the island, so I'm running with the skull, and then I get killed. But then I respawn, and I see that the 2 guys that were on the other ships fighting me are fighting each other. So then I'm like, do I try to sink their ship? Do I go and get involved in this fight on land? Like, I need to make sure that they don't sell the skull. So then what I ended up doing is just going to try to find Briggsy while they fought each other. And I thought, well, maybe if I hide right next to Briggsy, when one of them comes down to sell, whoever wins the duel, I'll just kill that guy at the last second and sell it. But then that guy was actually a crew of 2, and they came as a pair of 2, and one of them killed me right at the last second, and they sold it. And I didn't end up winning, but it was the most exciting, little chaotic battle I had in a long time, probably since the arena, like you had said, how it reminds you of the arena. So I had that level of coolness exactly one time. And any other time I played it, it was like either a much less level of coolness, like maybe somebody chased us for a bit and we had to sink them, and then they never came back and the rest was smooth. Like, that's not as exciting. But then, like, I've had several experiences where I just went through all the steps and never ran into anybody. There was no resistance, no friction, and it was just sail from A to B to C and then get money, which is not exciting. So I hope they do something with it, but that's just how it is.
You say it's not exciting, but you can afford your dream home now because you got money.
Well, that's the thing, is that you have more money, then your expectations get raised. You go from being like, well, I would like to have my own office, and then next thing you know, it's like, well, I would like to have a home theater and an indoor swimming pool. That's what money does to the brain.
You've got to love it or leave it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well,
so
maybe you should learn to do that about the Skull of Siren Song, because it's in the game. It's not perfect. The lore is a little convoluted, and people have stopped playing it. But you can either love it or
Lord
leave it.
List it. Love it or lore. Look.
Yeah.
When a feature is new in Sea of Thieves, it's great. But as with most things, once they start to get too old, they stop being good or useful, and we have to learn to leave them behind. We're no longer... Wait, which side of this was I on?
No, you're on the other side. You're arguing against yourself now. You're like...
Hyle,
you're like
Hyle,
the memory of Jeff
old
made
voyages,
manifest.
Old voyages still have so much they can offer to us. They have experience. These old voyages that maybe don't offer the same excitement that they used to.
Yeah.
I do feel a little bit like a hologram, a hard light hologram.
Yeah, I feel like the life is just seeped out of you, and you're just but a shell of the person I once knew. Well,
I'm clone number 3, so my brain is degrading with each clone pass.
Well, speaking of number 3, the third big update to season 10 of Sea of Thieves.
Segways, baby.
Yeah, that's how old people get around. That's why they're still vital. They get on the Segway, and there's no stopping them.
Yeah, they go right off the cliff.
I can't afford a Segway.
Like, I want to meet God.
I can't afford a Segway. I just need to get a Razor scooter because I have to love it or leave it, Jeff. And all I can afford is the Razor scooter.
I don't know. I'm not rich enough to know about Razor scooters. I thought Razor was a type of cell phone.
No, they're a popular scooter among the youth a few years back.
Some of those youths are riding around on these little 2-wheel Segways. They're called hoverboards, but I don't agree they should be called hoverboards
because they don't hover,
and they're not boards. Right? So you're 0 for 2, bud. All right, Caden or Aiden or whatever your name is that they named you in 2013.
The Idens of March just coming at us on their hoverboards.
you like McKegley or whatever your name is, born in 2015. Like, get off your damn hoverboard. It doesn't hover nor board.
Sometimes
Hyle,
you just want to get away from. Sometimes you just want to get away from it all, though. All these youths on their boards coming at you, and you just want to be left alone. And thankfully, the third major update in Sea of Thieves Season 10. See, this is also a segue. I found a way to salvage it.
You're doing a good job keeping us on task.
Yeah. It came in December of that year, just like many people do in the horny Santa Claus songs that I loathe. Don't get me started on that. The last time I went on a rant about the horny Santa Claus songs, we got a YouTube comment. It's like, why are you talking about having sex with Santa Claus? This is gross. And I'm like, you don't blame me, blame society. They're the one who
think that
pushed this on us.
On some fundamental, Santa Claus represents fatherhood, and a lot of people have pent up psychological relationships with their fathers, and then that gets, intermingled with their own sexual drives, and so everybody wants Santa to rail them in the Christmas sleigh.
Yeah, and he's a man who slides down your chimney and gives you sticky canes. You just think about it. Yeah, it makes sense to me. I'm just saying we should fight our urges a little bit.
I would tell you this, Hyle. Yeah. I have one of those big old Sea of Thieves beards. There's a small but active contingent of the human race that are just horny on main for beards as a concept. I've found it in the past 15 years of my life. They're out there, and when they are looking for a guy with a beard, they'll find him. They'll find me sometimes, and it's just, wow, all right. You really... Anyway, I think that factors into Santa Claus as a concept.
All right. Well, I don't want to talk about railing Santa Claus, as you put it. I want to talk about Safer Seas, the other thing that came in December, where this... Okay, so people threw a fit. I mean, not everybody, but the people you would expect to throw a fit threw a fit about this. This is a huge addition to the game, in that now you finally have private game servers with only one ship. You can still bring a crew of up to 4 people on a galleon into the server, but you have no other crews. You have no potential enemy players. It's just you and the game environment.
PvE, baby. PvE servers.
Yeah.
PvE is a phrase in video games that is short for the word private, because these servers are private. PvE stands for private. And when you're on a private server, you will have no PvP. PvP is short for private, which is not a word.
No. This is falling apart for you, Jeff.
It really is. So, Safer Seas is an option players now have. Jump in the game, play the game, do almost all the content, unlock almost all the rewards, play how they want to play, have fun, but just completely cut out all of the risk of the social side and the combative side of having other crews that are there to potentially mess you up.
Yes.
And it comes with certain drawbacks, certain restrictions of what you can do or how it works, but it's just an option. It just opens up that option of being able to play in a totally relaxed and safe environment.
Yes, it of course lowers your progression. You can't just play the game forever in Safer Seas and expect to get to Pirate Legend, expect to have all of the renown and stature that your pirate would receive. They've rebranded the original mode as High Seas. And the idea is you start playing the game in Safer Seas if you want. You can also play in High Seas once you pass the maiden voyage. But you eventually build the skills and the confidence to then take on High Seas, where the sort of gated next level features and things you can work towards are going to be kept, including captaincy.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's basically a balancing issue, because players that play in High Seas are doing certain things, quests, gathering treasures to sell, but they're doing it at a much higher risk, because while you're in High Seas, you have the risk of losing it through PvP. And so if you're going to play in a mode that significantly reduces the risk to your pirate, it removes all PvP. Now, you still have PvE. You still have risk of losing treasure.
Yes.
You could be attacked by megalodons and skeleton ships, or any other reason you might sink your ship. But the risk has significantly been reduced. And if there's less risk, there should be less reward. That just sort of makes sense, because otherwise a lot of players would just choose to always be in the safe seas. So what they've done is, I think they've struck the right balance of making Safe Seas worthwhile for people that want to use it, but properly compensating people that will take on the added risk of playing in the High Seas. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck in terms of the treasure and the speed at which you'll level up. And then there's certain features that you'll have access to in High Seas that just only make sense in High Seas. Certain features like world events that are reliant on the kind of PvP risk. Things like the Reaper's Bones, which are directly tied into like hunting other ships. Any feature that's built around PvP or the potential of PvP risk. Like emissaries. The emissary system is a way of multiplying your loot at the risk of being attacked. If you remove that risk, it doesn't make sense to have the emissary system anymore. So you don't get that multiplier if you play Safe Seas. So it's just stuff that's just logical. You're going to play this mode, you're going to have a lot less added risk, but there's going to be certain things you can't take advantage of. PvP type battles aren't there. World events aren't there. Multipliers for added risk are not there. And then the sort of end game progression stuff like captaincy, pirate legend status,
Guilds,
and guild play are things that are not available. But aside from that stuff, you do have access to the entire game,
including
like
Tall Tales.
All of the cosmetics, all of the tall tales, all of the voyages. And this is just, obviously, I think you and I are completely on the same page about this. This is just an absolutely perfect, amazing, necessary addition to the game. Doesn't hurt anything, only adds to things.
One of the biggest criticisms that a lot of players were having when they announced this, and these are mostly coming from the people who thrive on PvP, right? Like killing other crews, stealing their treasure, sinking their ships, is that this is effectively going to separate the audience, and there's going to be less marks for them to come after. And our argument, and I think our whole group was pretty unified in this, our guild, let's just call it, in that what this will do is basically save any new player who has a serious learning curve to overcome. This will allow them to learn the ropes of the game without getting bullied by those who just thrive on coming after people. And I mean, and that's not wrong. That's part of the game. That's part of what is now high seas. But it has created this serious hurdle for a lot of people to get into Sea of Thieves. A lot of rare fans and a lot of people I know who are intrigued by the game, but the social anxiety of playing in a shared server when you know you're not going to be as good as somebody who's been playing for 6 years, or somebody who streams it Monday through Friday for 8 hours a day purely on PvP. You know you're never going to be as good as that. And what Safer Seas does is say, okay, you can play the game, you can experience this rich tapestry that Rare has basically been working on for over half a decade now. I mean, longer than that before release.
They've been working on it for a decade.
Yeah.
One decade.
So this allows you, because there is so much to do in Sea of Thieves, even removing PvP and all of the progression stuff that it might entail. There's just, it is a full game and then some. So why not let people, because I will use an example from my personal life. My wife, she loves the idea of Sea of Thieves, but she doesn't classify herself as a gamer. And, you know, her favorite thing to do growing up was playing her brother's N64 and just running around in Ocarina of Time. Not really progressing, but just experiencing the game world. And every time she's played Sea of Thieves, she's had the panic of, is there another crew nearby? And she 100% completed Maiden Voyage, like got all the journals, did everything in it all by herself. Didn't even need, you know, my help or assistance. She just figured it out. She did it. But then getting into the game, there is always that fear, which would always keep her from playing it. Safer Seas launched in December, and I let her know. I was like, hey, you can play Sea of Thieves now without the fear of other crews. I will come into the room and she will be playing Sea of Thieves. She'll be playing her pirate in Safer Seas, and she'll be playing it for hours at a time. She's hooked now on Sea of Thieves because of Safer Seas. And like, it's been remarkable seeing her perspective on this, because, you know, we have been playing the game since before release, Jeff. And so we've kind of grown up alongside the game. So we have no conception of what it is in the early stages of when you're just starting out. And it would be like going now if there wasn't Safer Seas. You're basically trying to learn the ropes of Sea of Thieves. You play the Maiden Voyage, but it'd be like going from preschool to graduate school without anything in the middle, because there's just so much in the game now, and there's so many players who just know how to cheese the system. And so this allows you to build the confidence, build the skills, and eventually get to the point where, yeah, you might want to try out high seas because you've maxed out everything in safer seas, and maybe you want your own captain ship. Maybe you want to reach Pirate Legend, and then you feel like you have the confidence to finally attempt it. I think it's great. I think it's the best thing they've done for making Sea of Thieves more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, what I'll say about it is, I mean, it sounds like such maybe a binary thing of like, you're either the person that wants to play in PvP world or you're the person that doesn't, and we're going to split the player base up, and you're going to have players that only play in safe seas because they can hide from us, and then us PvP guys are not going to have anyone to fight, and it's going to really divide the community. And that's really the reality. It's not anything like that. It's not a binary thing. There's so many situational reasons to want to be in one mode or the other. Obviously, like you've said, a huge, massive example is that when you're brand new, it is an incredible option to be able to play in safe seas while you're learning. There's nothing worse than learning and just trying to figure out, like, how do I tune my sails? How do I, what island do I need to go to? How do I find it on my map? It's gonna take me 3 whole minutes straight of looking at this map before I find the island I'm supposed to go to, and then I have to figure out how to navigate there. Like, it's your first couple days, and in the middle of that, just a crew, while you're not paying attention for 3 minutes, some crew comes up and sinks you, and calls you mean words,
right,
and ruins your day.
Why can't they be nice?
There's no, why cannot they be nice? That's not the part of the Christmas season. That's not what Santa wants to, that's what Santa rails against. Santa will not rail you if you have been on the naughty list. So, make the right choices. But there's no reason for those players who have like no experience at all to be in the same world as the players that have 6 years of experience. Yeah. It really doesn't make sense. So having a place for them, if they want to, if they prefer to, learn in safety, in seclusion, learn the game. That's great. But then there's also people who could be total experts or like have played the game a lot that just prefer to play the game in that way for social anxiety reasons or just for chill. Like today I'm not feeling up to the potential of those interactions and I want to do something chill and not worry about it. You have the option. There's certain types of activities that maybe like I'm doing this activity that I just don't want any sort of other I want to do a tall tale. I want to experience the story and read the little books on my own time and not be attacked. Or I want to sit on my little corner of my little island and go fishing. I just want to go fishing and I don't want to worry about having to suddenly jump on the ship and run away from somebody who's going to chase me for 20 minutes and then sink me and my ship will sink with the barrels. There's just contextual times that it is nice to have the option to be in a safe little world on your own. Or maybe, yeah, like, I log into the game to do photo shoots. Mm-hmm. I write guides to Sea of Thieves, and that sometimes requires me to take pictures, like screenshots of stuff. But also, people take screenshots in Sea of Thieves just for fun. People like, I want to time it up with the sunset and put on a certain outfit and set up the scene and make a cool screenshot. I just like do it for fun. I take like photography hobbyists in Sea of Thieves, and then you can just like be sunk by a crew that just interrupts you right at that moment before the sunset or whatever,
right?
And ruins your shot. Have a place where you can do it safely. It's just great. I think of like something like Minecraft is a sort of video game that young people play. Hyle?
When they're not on their boards and scooters.
When they're not scooting around, hovering over the world, making fun of us old folks who are too old to understand. No, Minecraft is a game that has had a creative mode since the beginning. You have the survival mode where you have to deal with attacking enemies all the time, and you have to deal with your health depleting if you don't eat food. And But then you have the creative mode where you can just like, all right, I can turn off enemies, I can turn off nighttime, I can respawn whenever I want or whatever. Like, that's been around since like, 2010? There's no reason games like this shouldn't have that as a mode.
Right.
There's lots of MMOs have that as a mode. So for the Sea of Thieves community to have had such a vitriolic reaction, even before this got announced, just for years, the theoretical idea of this has been contentious. It's been talked about. You have the people saying, why can't we have a PvE mode? Every other game has one. And then you have a really vehement contingent that are like, this is going to break the game. And in reality, it doesn't. It turns out that you don't get a binary split that divides the community. You get people that will graduate from safer seas up to high seas. You get people that will contextually choose to do safe seas for some activities and do high seas for others. But I think eventually not everyone, but like a lot of people will just end up moving to high seas when they realize that they can get higher rewards, or contextually when they feel where they have got a big crew and they're safe and they don't have to be as worried, they'll want to jump into high seas.
And you know, like, even if there's people who don't want to move into high seas, there's nothing wrong with that too. Like, they're just content existing in the world of safer seas, because
yeah,
Sea of Thieves is a very fun game world to just sail around in, to explore. And there's nothing wrong if you just never want that anxiety of some like crew of dickish 12-year-olds coming up at you and yelling slurs at you. This completely removes that from the equation forever, if you would like.
You said dickish. You meant to say Scottish.
Well, yeah, there were the Scottish. The Scots Tots, as we called them.
Scots Tots.
Yeah.
Scots Tots really wrecked our shit.
They
So,
did. Scarred us
fun.
psychically. Cotbox in the chat says, especially with the new players coming in on PS5, Safer Seas is a great place for them to get their sea legs a bit before diving into the high seas. And yeah, we're about to have a whole new player pool coming in, who have never played Sea of Thieves before. And this is here for them now. And I think the amount of people who can now play Sea of Thieves and have no barrier of entry, be it console exclusivity or just the fear of not being adequate enough when you're jumping onto a moving ship 6 years on. Now there are no excuses not to play, unless you don't have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox or PC that can play it, or Steam Deck or whatever, you know.
You know what? People worry about it dividing the audience, and in the reality is there. You know, first of all, that's a stupid thing already, because you don't say, well, there's 3 million people on Sea of Thieves, but now there's only going to be 2 million, so the seas are going to be like 33% more sparse. That's an idiotic thought, because your server only has like 6 ships on it, and they're going to fill your server of 6. Like, they're not going to be like, oh, a third of the player base is playing the other mode, so we're only going to put 4 ships on each server. Right. That's not how it works. They're going to fill a server with 6 ships. You're not going to see a decrease. In fact, what you're going to see is if you're a PvP player, you're less often going to run into a guy who it's his very first half hour of the game and you just ruin his life.
Right.
Which is, I can't imagine how that would be fun for the PvP attacker either. When you go up and attack somebody, you don't know that they're brand new until it's too late and you've already like come up and destroyed them. And that must feel bad for both sides of that interaction, right? Like, the new guy just is blindsided, but then the guy who did the attacking didn't mean to attack a brand new nobody who doesn't know anything. You can't know. So I feel like removing those players from the pool only just makes the PvP interactions more exciting and more fun. But then the main point I wanted to say is not that, like, oh, out of 3 million, 1 million of them left the main mode to go to another mode, which is, again, a ridiculous concept. What's going to happen is you take a game that maybe had 3 million people and you make it inviting enough that now there's 5 million people.
Yeah.
Because more people will want to be in the game that never were going to play when there wasn't a Safer Seas. And that's where most of them are coming from. You're not getting people leaving the population and splitting the population. You're growing the game when you do this. And it's just really cool.
Yeah, and I mean that's the biggest thing I've encountered since we've talked about Sea of Thieves, going all the way back to 2015, the third season of this podcast, Jeff. Is every time Sea of Thieves has come up, and you know, people saw that E3 trailer and they were like, oh no, there's gamer tags. This is going to be online multiplayer. And then some people just noped out of the whole idea because they wanted a single player experience. They wanted a rare adventure that didn't require that level of engagement with other players. You have that now. And it's still online. Like you still have to play online. The servers are still being run, out of Rare.
You need an internet connection.
Yeah. So you still have that, but it's now so much more accommodating for all play styles, all philosophies. And yeah, I like, if I wasn't so deep in the game myself and like so invested in our guild and captaincy, I would be playing Safer Seas quite a bit because I have social anxiety. I have panic attacks when I go grocery shopping, Jeff, because there's too many people around me and they're coming at me with their carts. They're going to hit me. I'm in their way. I'm such a nuisance. I'm just a plague upon this world. I just wanted to buy some bananas. I just wanted to buy some runts. And all of a sudden, I'm having
these strangers at the grocery store are like, "Hey, did you know that these coconuts are twice as good as your stupid ass bananas?"
Yeah.
Do you know how good this pineapple is? You runt.
I'm having an existential crisis for what should just be a normal Saturday. So Safer Seas that's right up my alley, but fortunately, I have so many years in Sea of Thieves that I can muster high seas with either when I'm sailing with the crew or when I need to jump in for various reasons, like, oh, I want to, progress on this ship, this sloop, this brigantine, or I need to get a screenshot that has something to do with that, like the key art for this episode on YouTube and SoundCloud. I had to go into high seas to get it because I can't take my brigantine into Safer Seas. So that's what I did.
Well, and for the record, like you and I and our crew and our Sunday Stream of Thieves sessions, I mean, we pretty much don't play Safer Seas.
No.
There might be a specific time for a specific reason you might go into Safer Seas if I needed a screenshot of something.
Yeah.
But like, we don't. It's honestly crazy to me to imagine the alternate universe where Safer Seas was there from the start and you preferred it because it was always there. And it would be like our once in a blue moon hourglass diving sessions where we build up the courage to go diving. You're like, all right, once every month, maybe we'll go into high seas. But
right.
No, instead we just play high seas by default and you're comfortable with it. And I like that. That's great. But like, that just goes to show these people that are afraid it's going to divide the community are stupid because, like, you and I and all of our friends, we still just play high seas. We almost exclusively play high seas. And all it does is add options for people who maybe don't want to do that. But it doesn't, like, pull people away. The people who are doing high seas are going to still do high seas. You're going to get new people in. They're going to get comfortable, and then they're going to graduate to high seas. And then you're going to get new people who maybe never would have played the game, but they will now because they can stay in safe seas.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to deny them that opportunity just for some purity argument of like, well, it's not the real game if you don't have the risk. And it's, fuck off with that. There's this gatekeeping concept.
Yeah, there's gatekeeping for sure, and then there's also just legitimately shitty people who probably are afraid that they're gonna lose those easy kills, that they do want to just pick on players less experienced than them, and the hell with them.
They need to get good.
Yeah.
Right. Love it or list it, bitch. Well, Hyle,
Jeff.
That's about all we have to say about season 10.
Yeah.
Luckily, see, I kind of teased around with you what time I was able to record this, and that was a sneaky tactic to stop anybody from sending in those damn viewer phone calls because I don't like them.
Yeah.
It wasn't on purpose, but we don't have any calls.
No, we don't have any calls because we were going to do this episode much later in the day. And then Jeff sent me a message at like 7 a.m. this morning and said, can we do it at noon?
I've been up since 4, Hyle. I didn't think I had to work today. And then it turned out I got to go home from work early today. So and then I have to work on my car later, and I didn't know how long that was going to last. So then I was like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to record this, Hyle. I don't know what time to tell you. It's going to be in the evening. I don't know. And then I was like, well, if we do it at noon, I can tell you a for sure time, and it'll be great. And in the end, it worked out because I don't have to answer the phone calls. Yeah. So, well, plug the phone for people for the future. If you want to give us a phone call about future topics or questions about this topic, call us. What is it? 1-800 Donkey Kong phone?
No.
Donkey phone?
Don't dial that number. Don't dial that number. Do not.
DKVine.com/smush.
No, do not dial 1-800 Donkey Kong phone. I don't know who has that phone number, but they're going to be very upset when they get all those calls. No, if you want to call the Kongversation and really ruin Jeff's day the next time he's on, be sure to call 1-202-630-VINE 8463.
Yeah, and if you want to send any feedback to us about how we're doing, feel free to reach out to Hyle on all of the DK Vine social channels. You either can tell us everything we're doing wrong, or just tell us we're doing great, which is another way of saying love it or list it. And if you want us to stop talking about fucking Santa Claus, you could do that too.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.